I'm going to stand up here. First of all, thank you to the Moderna Foundation for allowing me to come here today and talk to you about my viewpoints, and also Antonio, because you have shown risk, that very entrepreneurial.
Gracias por traerme aquí. Bueno, como solo tengo 10 minutitos, os voy a contar
I'm going to tell you a little bit about something that could be quite disruptive. And I'm sure my colleagues on the round table will maybe censor or they may applaud it, I don't know. That has to do with the startups and investors. One of the facets after my failure in the last startup, I say that very openly, it was terrible. I had a capital risk fund, and from that viewpoint, and from the viewpoint of entrepreneur, I can tell you a little bit what I believe is interesting with respect to talent. I don't know who said this, but it is clear that you will all coincide with me in that you prefer to have a team with a plan A than a plan B. This is irrefutable. I prefer to have very good people around me, because maybe the idea that they've got is only a prediction. I might make a mistake, and this applies in all the different areas, entrepreneurial, investing, management, in all the different areas. If we focus specifically on startups, I have rescued a statistic that talks about why the startups fail. And more specifically, 46% say the reason is incompetence or there's imbalanced experience. And after that, lack of experience in line of goods or services, and neglect, fraud, and disaster that play a secondary role. And this shows clearly that the team can be very important. Let's continue a little bit about this. Do you know who these people are? Probably you do. Paul Allen, Steve Jobs, Green. There is a mantra that repeated in all these successful startups. And we're always talking about co-founders. There are teams of entrepreneurs, not just one entrepreneurial person. There's only one person behind a startup, and that is successful. It is often surprising. And we often face with realities such as this one we can see here. And the question about where did you meet each other? And normally the answer is because we're friends. From an entrepreneurial viewpoint, business viewpoint, this is probably one of the major mistakes that are made, and I'm going to tell you why. What comes first? We are friends and therefore we become entrepreneurs, or because we are partners in a business, we end up becoming friends. My first company was started up when I was 25 years old, and I invited 3 colleagues with me, and they have become real friends. And I have done it the other way around as well. I've started up a business with friends, and often it's ended up being a disaster. So really, becoming a team based on friendship is an important error. So what happens is that we find an important dichotomy. How many of you, I don't know how to get rid of this. Could somebody help me get rid of this? How many of you know how to do a jigsaw puzzle? Well, everybody, I presume, because it's quite simple. We have some pieces, some resources. We have some rules of the game. We know what we have to do. We have to, and normally we have some strategies. We have to join the colors together. First of all, we do the corners. People who've done jigsaw puzzles will know what I'm talking about. And then we take, this way of doing jigsaws is something that we've been taught right from when we were little, when we were 5 years old. And this is the managing way of thinking. When you've got a company and you've got resources, and based on your skills, the abilities of the company, strategies, we are able to do a puzzle. And we also look at our competitors and see how they do things. But the entrepreneurial thinking is something different. There was a fashionable movement in North America that consisted in making clothes from bits of cloth. It didn't really matter, like patchwork. It didn't really matter if they matched or not. And that is the entrepreneurial way of thinking. When somebody starts up a company, normally it's after looking at what is needed on the market or what I'm good at. The only way of being successful is to have the right number of resources. And the way of doing this is having partners. Often we find entrepreneurs, investors, who have got a partner and they've had equity in the company, because maybe I'm not an accountant rather, and that person knows about accounting. So combining of resources is very important, and the way of doing this is based on being a partner with shares. But of course, all of this changes with time. But generally, the entrepreneurial way of thinking is active. I take steps, and depending on the steps, those pieces of cloth that I use to make my clothes, it has nothing to do with doing a jigsaw puzzle, but education we receive has nothing to do with this. There's a Gallup survey from 2011 that was done among students when it was EGB in my time. That was the basic general education. And the survey asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And 71% said they want to be their own bosses. The first day when I went to university, I was at the 3 out of 67 gave that answer. The rest have become because it was an anomaly. What's happened with the heads? All of this becomes complicated because the investors, what they invest in, at least in some stages or phases, are not the teams. What do you mean you don't invest in a team? What do they invest in then? Well, let's have a look. They invest on exceptional things. They look at something that is exceptional. They go to the extremes. They never focus on the middle bit. What they are looking for are exceptional teams, exceptional products, or exceptional traction. I'm going to give you an example. Imagine that I'm a salesman. I'm drunk, I'm nude. Oh, don't imagine it that much. But imagine that I've got a product that works. It is a teletransporter of people. Would I have to do something else to sell my product or not? I'd have to go out at home and send out orders. As life isn't perfect, I can't offer you a teletransporter today, but what I can do is offer you products. Can be very interesting, but require a great team. And it is at that time when the teams become very important, like the uncertainties attack and hurt. We need teams that can solve the problems, except if the market says the contrary. Not very long ago, some girls came to my office and suggested a company. It was chicas.com, girls.com. And we want the girls to do purchasing, to go shopping as a group. In 2 months, they managed to have 12,000 fans on Facebook. There was a real traction there. Investors are very good. In spite of that, a lot of them fail. And those who don't fail are the investments that grow very quickly, that have a lot of traction. Facebook, for example. How many of you think that Mark Zuckerberg manages Facebook, or when the companies grow so quickly and there are capital risk, no investor is able to manage that adversity. And the same has occurred with when I've come into the office and there are two people, unknown faces. That really is a failure for me. For example, something bigger occurs on Facebook. And when this occurs, the entrepreneurial team changes. The team changes and becomes much more powerful. And if we have a problem, imagine that I've got a consultancy problem. The team really must be powerful. With this dichotomy, risk product, risk market, if my product doesn't sell on its own, if there's a market risk, I'm going to need a really super powerful team. And that is the dichotomy that makes talent become important. And why? This is a curve in a company. We start from nothing. But then a journalist publishes something about us, and we think that they're kings of the mambo. But then we start being public people, and we end up falling into a valley, and often, or a trough. But when you come out of this, your company hasn't just become a style of life, but has become a business. And for that, we need to be educated. We need to cultivate talent, not just at student level, professional level, but also at teaching level. We're doing courses for teachers who teach this, because entrepreneurship doesn't have to be a subject. It has to exist. It has to be cross-cutting in all these subjects. The philosophy, maths teachers, they all must include it. So in summary, the only thing that I can say, however you look at it, I prefer to have an A team with a B plan than the other way around. So under my viewpoint as an entrepreneur, you failing, success, the teams are all important. Thank you.